Welcome back, everyone, to today's Explainer. If you've ever wondered how to literally optimize your living space for peak holistic health, well, we found some truly fascinating source material for you today. We're going to be exploring a pretty provocative perspective from the mystic and yogi Sadhguru. We're breaking down his specific insights on how our modern bedrooms, the very places we retreat to for rest and recovery, are actually impacting our deepest well-being. By strictly looking at the insights from our source material today, we're going to unpack exactly how our modern living spaces might actually be working against us. And more importantly, we'll dive into the two fundamental pillars Sadhguru suggests we implement to completely transform our immediate environments. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why do we actually sleep 8 hours a day? For most of us, the answer seems super obvious, right? We're tired, our bodies need rest to recover, and it's just this foundational pillar of human health. But the source material actually presents a completely different, honestly kind of jarring premise. Sadhguru suggests that our modern sleep habits aren't purely about natural rest. Instead, he proposes that sleeping for 8 to 10 hours a day has become a biological defense mechanism. Think about that for a second. He's saying we're sleeping this much simply to protect ourselves from our own unnatural environments. It's a profound shift in how we view our nightly routine. We aren't just resting. According to this perspective, we are quite literally taking shelter.
To really grasp why we're taking shelter every night, we have to look at the stark contrast Sadhguru points out between a natural habitat and our modern ones. In a truly natural habitat, there's this profound stillness. But what does our modern habitat look like? Well, according to the source, especially when observing environments in places like the US and Europe, our habitats are totally defined by closed rooms and this endless, unnatural buzzing. People close everything up tight, turn on an air conditioner, and just let it run constantly. And the source notes that these environmental reverberations are, quote, freaking this body completely all the time. Even if you aren't consciously aware of it, that constant low-level buzzing is impacting your nervous system. You're no longer living in a natural habitat. You're essentially living in an endlessly buzzing artificial box.
And this leads to a pretty striking assertion regarding the consequences of living in that artificial box. Sadhguru states that to protect yourself from disease, to fend off mental illnesses, and to protect yourself from all the kinds of imbalances caused by this environment, you end up retreating into sleep. You sleep 8 to 10 hours a day. As he so bluntly puts it, this is half your life, you're dead. The core argument here is that the sheer overwhelming nature of those constant reverberations and that artificial buzzing literally forces the human body to shut down for massive portions of the day, just to avoid breaking down completely. We're spending half our lives unconscious, merely to cope with the habitats we've built for ourselves.
Now, Sadhguru points out that, technically speaking, death is always a good fix because it permanently ends the problem. If you end something, well, it's fixed. But obviously that's an end fix, and that is absolutely not what we're looking for here. We want to be here, we want to be alive, and we want our environments to actually support that life. We are looking for a life fix. And since you can't just abandon your city, leave the modern atmosphere completely behind, and go live off-grid in a jungle, the source urges that you must at least equip yourself within your own home. You have to actively adapt your immediate sleeping environment so that the draining impacts of the modern city are actually mitigated. Let's move to and see how this builds into the first practical solution offered in our source material. If we're actively trying to counteract the deadening effect of those closed, buzzing rooms, the first pillar of Sadhguru's life fix is to bring non-human life indoors. You need to consciously introduce living elements right into the immediate space where you sleep. This is all about altering the fundamental energy and composition of your bedroom so it functions just a little bit more like a natural habitat, and a little less like a sterile, buzzing vault.
So how do we practically apply this first pillar? The source actually gives some very clear and honestly pretty humorous advice here. First, surround yourself with plants. If you think you don't have space, well, make space. Fill your room up. Sadhguru jokes that even if you have to open up the damn wall to let some sunlight in, you should absolutely do it. And while he acknowledges that people might think you look a bit freaky, bringing a literal jungle into your sleeping quarters, he insists it's totally vital. Furthermore, this pillar extends way beyond just decorating with a couple of ferns. It's a holistic mindset shift. He advises that you have to actively remain conscious of all the life around you that isn't human. Become alive to a tree, a plant, a blade of grass, or even a grasshopper hopping by. It's about indiscriminately recognizing and connecting with the vibrant life force existing right alongside us.
All right, this brings us to the second and arguably even more profound pillar of this explainer, the element of fire. To understand why fire is so incredibly central to this philosophy, the source asks us to consider how we determine if someone is alive or dead. What's the fundamental test?
We check if the body is warm or cold. Warmth equals life, cold equals death. In other words, checking for life is essentially checking whether the fire is on or gone. Fire, in this yogic perspective, is intrinsically linked to our variability to stand up as strong, living beings.
To further explain the fundamental necessity of this fire, Sadhguru offers a really brilliant analogy about cooking. Just imagine you have a kitchen completely stocked with the absolute best ingredients in the world. You have everything you could possibly need, but if you don't have a fire, well, you have no cooking. Life on this planet works exactly the same way. The source explains that all the biological ingredients for life could exist, but life only truly cooked itself up because of the immense fire of the sun. The basic energy driving the entire world is simply that massive fireball. Therefore, having an element of fire isn't just symbolic, it literally represents the very catalyst of life itself.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Sadhguru translates this massive cosmic principle into a highly practical daily wellness routine through a practice called a fire wash. We all completely understand the concept of taking a water shower to cleanse our physical bodies, right? Well, in the yogic system, maintaining well-being also involves a daily fire wash. By keeping a little fire around you, you're engaging in a practical system of energetic cleansing. The source notes that utilizing fire in this way is escalating and producing absolutely incredible results for people's overall well-being. It's essentially about managing your energetic hygiene just as diligently as you manage your physical hygiene.
To safely execute this fire wash, the source lays out some very specific actionable guidelines for your bedroom. First, he advises every single person to keep a burning lamp in their bedroom. Now, safety is obviously paramount here, so the second point is crucial. Maintain a totally safe distance from where you physically sleep. You definitely do not want an open flame right next to your bed sheets. But the third point is the consistency. Let it burn every single night. According to Sadhguru, introducing this small, continuous element of fire will make a world of difference for you. It literally transforms the bedroom into a powerfully consecrated space, fighting off the deadening impacts of that modern, buzzing environment we discussed earlier.
So the crucial point is, if a simple little lamp can make such a world of difference, why is there so much resistance? Why isn't everybody already doing this? The source addresses a very modern stigma attached to this super ancient practice. Historically, a lamp used to be burning constantly in an Indian home. Today, however, people heavily associate the act of lighting a lamp with specific religious acts or even religious conversion. Because a lamp is used in certain religious ceremonies, people have this fear that simply bringing a burning lamp into their bedroom for their own well-being somehow means they are participating in a religion they don't belong to. Sadhguru has a really direct and pretty impartial response to this modern pushback. He compares the logic of avoiding lamps due to religious fears to the absolute absurdity of avoiding hand washing. He points out that some religions use water, and specifically hand washing, as a strict part of their rituals before they pray. But you obviously wouldn't refuse to wash your hands before dinner simply because you're afraid that using water will magically convert you to that religion. The source bluntly calls the fear of lighting a lamp for those same reasons just stupid. Fire, much like water, is just a fundamental natural element required for life and well-being, long before any religious affiliation ever claimed it.
Which brings us to the final, really provocative thought I want to leave you with today. Based on everything we've explored from the source material, the unnatural buzzing of our modern closed rooms, the reality that excessive sleep might literally just be a biological defense mechanism, and the targeted solutions of bringing non-human plant life and the elements of fire indoors, you really have to ask yourself a serious question. Look around your own sleeping environment tonight. Are you designing your bedroom to truly support a vibrant life, or is it just a closed-off bunker meant to help you barely survive your habitat? It's a super powerful perspective on holistic health, and hopefully this explainer has given you the structured insights you need to rethink your own spaces. Keep learning, keep optimizing, and we will see you in the next explainer.